Good day, mate. I'm Matt from Diazable. I'm here to talk about music and have a good time and just, enjoy life and everything. Hey, you might be wondering what kind of accent I'm doing here. As I'm doing it, I don't think it's really an Australian accent. It was really bad, but hey, I did my best. So yeah, I'm Matt from Diazable. I do music reviews. Thanks for coming on by. I appreciate it. Today, I'm checking out the latest release from a band called Thornhill with their latest release called Bodies. If you've never heard of Thornhill, they are a metalcore band, I guess, or at least they were a metalcore band and have kind of shifted into more new metal and alternative rock sounds in the past years, I guess. So that's what it says on their bio. But yeah, they've been a band since about 2015, and they've released about 3 albums, 2 EPs, and have been just, trugging along in the metal space in the world. And this band here, I really don't know much about this band. I think I've heard their name once or twice in my years of listening to metal and stuff, but I don't know why, but their stuff never really came across to me until recently when I started doing reviews. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I got their name confused with a Japanese band called Sable Hills, and these guys are called Thornhill. So I think we're getting to the point in the music space in all genres that bands, artists, their names are all starting to blur together a little bit. Nothing really seems too unique anymore, but that's beside the point. And like I said, I don't really know much about this band, so let's go right into this review. Thornhill's Bodies opens up with a sound that is both familiar and heavy. It has deep bass lines, groovy riffs, and drums that just punch through the mix with a lot of intent. And with these noticeable traits about the band, from the opening song Diesel and onward, the band locks into a very industrial, style of music playing here that hits really hard, but stays very clean in a weird way. The production is really sharp, and the low end weight dominates a lot of the space that, makes it all sound very kind of satisfying in a way. I guess a simpler way I could say this is, it's music that definitely shakes the floorboards, but it doesn't really shake or resonate in your soul. And from what I can tell, I can see Thornhill is trying to do something here in terms of like bridging that gap between new metal grit with moody atmospheric textures. But the problem that I felt that I kept hearing on this album was, it just feels like a lot of deja vu. Tracks like Revolver and Silver Swarm really lean heavily into like Deftone style whispers and scream vocals and thick chugging riffs. The grooves for the most part work with the songs, and the tone is very massive, but the emotion behind everything feels a bit distant and just a bit disconnected. It's like Thornhill is playing someone else's songs with impressive precision and detail, but there's not much personal conviction in the playing. But that aside and everything, I will say there are moments of like where the fog clears and you kind of get a sense of their own style a bit, particularly on the song Only Ever You. It stands out with a very clear vocal delivery and a sense of movement that just really feels more natural before all the songs beforehand that came before Only Ever You. The softer passages on this particular track really carry some weight to them for once, and the heavier moments hit because there's some actual like something building up to them. This was the first track on this album that I felt like the band really sounded like themselves, tighter, moodier, and just less desperate to like not sound like other bands. When Thornhill kind of slows things down a bit, the album actually starts to breathe, like on the songs Fall Into the Wind and For Now. Both of these songs reach an intimacy that earlier songs just really couldn't get because they have a very soft, ambient texture to them that just sits somewhere between melancholy and just like releasing that energy of like sadness. They're not the most memorable songs you're gonna hear, but they feel very honest, and compared to everything else that's been on this record, they seem like the more like honest, realer, and just more natural cuts on this record. And then as you go along, the songs Tongues and Nerve kind of drag you back into that safe territory that they were doing beforehand. Thick riffs, deep kicks from the drums, and vocals that blur into the mix a little bit. There is skill behind every element of this band, but not much identity. It's like you can almost predict every hit of the drums, every like way that the vocals are going to influx and, fade out. And I got to say, it's the kind of music that if you've never listened to metal or this type of music, yeah, it might sound kind of like impressive. But if you're very familiar with modern metal and older metal, it's going to be really hard for you to want to revisit this album. But then the song Crush comes in, and it is a complete curveball in terms of the overall sonic palette and textures you're getting here, because you get some eerie synths, washed out vocals, and a strange, almost like dream pop energy that just feels completely different from the rest of the album. And that surprise, it's a very welcome surprise. It's a good thing, because this is the only track on this whole album that genuinely surprises you and shows that, oh, Thornhill, they are capable of breaking the mold, doing something a little bit different, and kind of, having an identity. If they could follow up with more of these instincts on this particular song on the rest of this album, they might have ended up with a more interesting album overall. And then you have the closing song, Under the Knife, that really brings everything full circle here. You got some really distorted riffs with some really deep drums and very calm and aggressive, balanced out vocals and just overall delivery that just really nails that sound that I think they were looking for on this entire album. And so it's an easy reminder to see that, Thornhill's best strength is, like dealing with contrast, because that push pull between mood and heaviness, even if it doesn't always find the sweet spot, it just really works well for this band. So at the end of the day, Bodies is an album that sounds good, but a bit conflicted, because, the production is solid, the playing is strong, the grooves quite undeniable at times, but the music often just feels like it's trying to be someone else's like style, reflection, like a different band. It's not Thornhill half the time. I feel like I'm listening to a lesser version of Deftones with this album. But when Thornhill kind of like step out of the shadows of like bigger new metal and alt metal bands, they kind of have their own originality that just kind of shines through. And even in those small moments, it makes them sound very massive and just bigger, because they're doing something that is actually unique, but it's just not really often happening here. It's a technically sharp record for sure, but it's emotionally a bit uncertain of where it wants to go. It's heavy, it's well made, but it seems to be searching for an identity that it doesn't know what it is. So overall, this latest album from Thornhill's, Bodies, my first time listening to them, I would have to give them a okay to light decent 6.5 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this band. Some other recommendations, some other albums from Thornhill that I should definitely check out, because their styles have changed over the years. So I'm always open to other things. And like always, guys, see you in the pit.